Hello everybody, this is Hugh Sweeney back here again with another video. And this time it's a slightly different video to my normal videos. Not that I have that much consistency with my videos. Recently I made this horror movie a couple of months before Christmas and released it just at Christmas. When it came to making this movie, I just wanted to make something very simple that I could film all on my own with a zero crew, zero budget. No major amount of effects or actors involved, very minimal. In fact, I even filmed it here in my own apartment. And I'd just like to talk to you guys about some of the techniques I learned and areas which I went wrong. There's loads of things I could have improved on, so I'm going to point some of these things out and maybe you guys could learn from it as well if you're starting out making movies. I shot this movie on a Canon DSLR. In fact, it's right here beside me. This is a 60D. I only used the pull-out LCD screen. I did not use a monitor. The most important thing I think when you're filming is to maintain good focus. If the subject of the actor is out of focus, it really distracts the viewer. Other than a tripod, probably one of the best investments you can make for your filmmaking is something like this. This is actually a follow focus. Okay, the one I have is comes with a rig that I bought, and it's a very handy device. You basically attach that to your base plate or your rig, and you put this guy on your lens. That way it allows you to turn the knob, turn the dial, and turn the focus on your lens. And you can also set the focus points as well, so that's a very good idea. When it came to the hallway shot in this movie, I was planning on doing just a tripod shot in the middle of the hallway. And then when I was on set, I noticed coming out the door of the kitchen that the door of the kitchen and the door of the bedroom are parallel to each other. So I did a dolly movement and followed the actor as she came out of the door. And to make it a little bit more interesting, I put a red light in between, because red is sort of an evil colour in movies, and it just gave that sort of scary look to it. So that was one of my favourite shots in the movie. When you're making movies like this as well, it's always a good idea to get the best possible, the most cinematic, most aesthetically pleasing shot possible. In this film I made a few mistakes where, you know, I just filmed the scene where she's up against a boring wall with nothing going on behind her, and you know, I could have made it a lot more interesting if I had put the thought into it. I could have moved her to a different section of the couch where, you know, there's space behind her where there's a bit of depth of field, and you can sort of give the shot more sort of tension and stuff, especially when it's a horror movie, to give the viewer the impression something could be lurking behind her. So move things to positions that might create you know, a little bit of more atmosphere in the shot to make it scary. Even where that scene where she's getting up off the ground and you can see the Buddha head behind her, little things like that. And in the hallway there's a mannequin, which kind of adds a little element of creepiness. When it comes to lighting, the worst thing you can do is to make the lighting obvious. Now, I haven't lit many scenes, and with this I can see mistakes all over the place. Some shots are just too bright, there's too much lighting going on. Some of the better lighting actually in this is where I didn't think so much about the lighting, and I actually got lazy and I didn't bother moving the lights. There's one scene where she's not lit, but she's lit from behind, so she's almost silhouetted, and it actually works out better than some of the other scenes. With the lighting, I sort of used existing lighting, you know, a couple of lights that were around. When it was in the dream sequence, I actually wanted everything to look a bit colder, so I actually placed some green gels above on the existing halogen lights that were in the apartment, and that way everything sort of cooled down. I added a little bit too much green. It's quite green looking in places, but people tend to like that, and people were asking me, hey, how did you get that green light effect? So yeah, the answer is just using gels and stuff like that, and you can get them from any lighting company. I only use one camera, so when you're using one camera, I found with this movie that it's important to shoot the scene quite a few times. It's very important to get the continuity right. if the actor does a certain movement when they're saying a certain word, if they're acting it again, they have to be doing that same movement when they're saying that word. They have to remember their exact movement. So always put pressure on the actor to keep the continuity right. Even though I shot this scene, like these scenes, certain scenes over and over again, I still struggle to get enough shots in the edit to actually put it together. So you'd be surprised how many times, particularly if you're using one camera, you'd be surprised how many times you need to shoot the same scene. Always good to shoot using different lenses. You know, you're going to want a slightly wider lens like this one to capture everything, or the Sigma 18-35, which I used here. Then it's nice, you know, to use a prime lens like a 50mm. And for the close-ups, ironically for the close-ups, sometimes it's nicer to be further away and use a zoom lens, and you add a little bit to the shot that way as well. So there's some of the lenses I used. That's a 100mm L lens from Canon. It's fantastic, prime lens. Now I did do it handheld on some of the shots, and this lens has an image stabilization system in it. But I did notice that the stabilization was obvious when I was holding the camera. It sort of flicked here and there to restabilize itself. So sometimes maybe it's a better idea not to use lens stabilization if it becomes apparent in the shot. Just use a tripod and maybe give it a little bit of movement with your hand to give it that handheld shot. When it comes to actors, you know, I hadn't got really that much time to audition people and go through lots of CVs. So when I put the note out, I asked people to actually send me a video audition. I sent them the script and I asked them to do a particular line, and a few people sent in the video, and I chose this girl, Claire. It's a good way of sort of narrowing down your results, because sometimes when you're looking for an actor for a movie, you know, you can be inundated with applicants, and somebody that you might want to choose for the movie mightn't actually be that interested in doing the movie. So you always want to get somebody that's very, very interested in the movie. With makeup, I cut a few corners. I hadn't got time to do anything fairly effective, so I just had to use sort of black and white effect, and it was very crude. I did it myself in about 10 minutes. And because it was so crude and fake looking, I think of a way of getting around that. So I used a shallow depth of field on the lens, and that way it meant that the killer was actually out of focus in the background. And I think that adds to the scariness of the scene, and it didn't show up the blemishes in the makeup.
Darren, where are you?
He's dead.
Now for the hand scene under the bed, it was a matter of applying some liquid latex and stuff like that, and some makeup, black and white makeup, to give it the sort of dead look. And because it comes out so fast, we sort of got away with it. It looked pretty okay. That shot was supposed to be a POV shot looking down. But then when we got on set, it just didn't look right with the lighting. It just looked too flat. So we decided to put the camera low down from the side. And that way you could get the scariness of the hand coming out. So it's always important to make it look as scary as possible when you're doing these short horror films. So I think the hand acts as a good scare at the start. The TV scene, I actually used some images I found on the internet, and I also used just a few pieces of existing footage. It's quite amusing. You know, the more she's getting, the more it's progressing, the more she's getting sort of afraid looking. So I got a water bottle, a spray bottle, and I put water in it, and it just sprays this mist. So I gave her sort of a sweaty look, just to try and kind of messed her hair up a little bit. So watch things like that in continuity as well. In this film, I decided not really to use music, but more to use sound effects. So there's one or two little sound effects thrown in there. I used the sound of rain in the background to kind of give it a little bit of tension and give you the feeling of being locked in. So there's a sort of rain, consistent dripping sound. Also, there is a bit of thunder throughout the movie, as well as sort of a deep rumble. And that's used in effect when the hand comes out under the bed. There's a thunderclap as opposed to a typical horror sound. So that's pretty cool. Now, I don't like to record audio straight into the camera. I like to keep it separate. And I record audio into a device like this, which is a Tascam DR100. It's a very, very good way of recording audio. Now, there were certain scenes in this movie where I just let the audio run continuously without labeling each take. So I didn't, I didn't label, I didn't use a clipperboard. I just let the audio run, and I said to the actor, do it again one more time. And when it came to finding the piece of audio and actually linking up the right piece of audio to the piece of footage, it took me a couple of hours to find the exact piece of audio. It was a nightmare. Some people do a clap in front of the camera and say, take 50. That's, something like that will help. But I didn't do that. I wish I had. An off-camera mic is very important for these movies. You should get yourself a mic like this. It's a cardioid mic. This one is by Octava. And this coupled up with your audio recording device is a really good setup. I see some people mounting the mics on the camera. That's fine if you're doing like interviews, or if you're doing, gun and run type stuff where you don't have many options. But if you're making a short movie, always get the mic located fairly close to the actor, and preferably you can if you can mount it on a boom pole or something like that. Since making this movie, I've actually got myself this, which is a boom pole with a blimp kit. And this is the Sennheiser microphone. So this system is ideal for making your short movies. You will have to invest some money, but it will make such a difference. If you haven't got the money, if it's not, if you're starting out, first thing you should buy is just the microphone, and mount it whatever way you can to get it close to the actor. Just make sure it's not in shot. After you record your audio and organize your audio and stuff like that, it's a good idea to sort of do some level of mastering with it. I use software called Adobe Audition just to kind of master the files and organize the files, cut out the pieces you want, and perhaps normalize them. Maybe you want to EQ them and stuff like that. So audio processing is quite important. I bounced down the movie and I brought it into software called Logic. Logic is excellent audio arranging software with plenty of really good effects and stuff like that. So it was a more powerful way of doing the sound for the movie rather than, editing little bits in Final Cut Pro. It's not just a matter of just placing in the audio file into the movie. You actually have to make the sound like it's coming from where it's coming from. For example, in this movie, there's certain scenes where the mobile phone is on a glass table right beside her and it rings. That's going to sound different to when it's down the hallway under a bed. You have to EQ it a certain way. You also have to give it a sort of maybe pan it to one side, and so that the viewer can get a sense where it's coming from. It's important to make sure that you get enough shots to put your edit together. And sometimes what will happen is when you're making these movies, you realize when you've done all your filming that you actually are missing something that's integral to the movie. And with this film, I realized that I hadn't got a shot of her calling her boyfriend back. I had to get around it in the edit, and I had a couple of shots that I wanted to use of a wine bottle pouring a glass of wine, and also shots of her drinking the wine and stuff like that. So I overlaid my voice as his answer machine while the wine was being poured, and did it in slow motion, and that sort of gave the impression that she was calling him, looking for him on multiple times, even though it was just played once. So that worked out pretty good.
Hello, this is Darren Stevens here. Sorry I can't be at the phone right now. You can leave a message, or alternatively, if it's work related, you can catch me.
So I'm going to have more videos soon, and I'm going to be making another horror movie like this soon as well. So do keep an eye on my channel for all that stuff. Plus I'll have more reviews and stuff like that, and maybe some more tutorials on some of the stuff I'm doing. As always, to you guys who have subscribed, thank you so much. It means a lot. And if you haven't already subscribed, please do. Enjoy your horror movies and have a good sleep tonight now. And don't get too scared. Bye for now.